Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we are specifically going to talk about Holga Kilgore and what we learned about this Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves hero in the brand new D&D Beyond only Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves Gallery article, canon content on D&D Beyond. And one of the things, I honestly believe this is the absolute most important thing that has been published for Dungeons and Dragons in 2023, and it is fantastic, right? Because it has changed Dungeons and Dragons so fundamentally with multiple things, with the images they've chosen, with medium humanoid being able to replace species, with being able to have with the new permissioning from Hasbro to have a fully functioning adventure without defining species or class. That has never happened in any Dungeons & Dragons edition. And in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, thanks to D&D Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves, we can now play a fully functioning adventurer with literally no species and no class. That is and actually, I should say this more specifically. By anchoring the character on medium humanoid, it allows every single species option. It allows you to use whatever species option you want from any of the species, and freely mix any of the powers or abilities or feats from any of the classes. So that's what we're getting from D&D Beyond, Dungeons & Dragons, Honor Among Thieves Gallery, canon content. Incredible. And I want to talk about Holga Kilgore today. And I'm incredibly excited about this character. So this is Michelle Rodriguez's... specifically Michelle Rodriguez's character. She has powers that may have come from a fighter class or a barbarian class. She has a powerful magic item that, in my humble opinion, clearly comes from Mirrodin, which is extremely exciting. The Magic the Gathering setting. She has a Dark Steel Great Axe, which is incredible. But we learn a lot about her in this, in her section, in her complete stat block. And I also want to talk about this, right? Stat blocks are incredibly important. And actually, just so you're aware, so one thing I kind of agree is I cannot tell you how important this is, right? Every piece, every narrative we receive now has a main narrative, a meta-narrative, and an assigned narrative, right? One of the assigned narratives I'm seeing applied to Holga Kilgore and the other heroes is, I watched Nerd Immersion's coverage on this, and he immediately said the character sheet, right? That's actually wrong, right? These are stat blocks. They're very carefully saying these are stat blocks. But the assigned narrative, and actually the assigned narrative for almost every engaged Dungeons & Dragons modern dungeon master is that this is the best way to describe this. So basically, if a player character dies at the table, good engaged modern dungeon masters, 5e dungeon masters, they won't let that player character, often they'll say, hey, your player character just died, right? You can sit here and, like a bad dungeon master be like, well, you're done for the night, and think about what you want to run next week. But one of the things I've seen done really gracefully at tables is like, oh my gosh, first of all, let's take 15 minutes, everybody get up from the table, let's let things settle, right? And then when we come back, right, you can use any stat block from any D&D canon book, right? And that's really exciting because, one, it gives the person something to do immediately. They can go through the books that are in the house, whatever books are in the collection of the group, and they can choose a stat block and immediately run it and begin playing, right? And so most engaged dungeon masters today see stat blocks as character sheets, and I totally agree with this. It actually, just to be clear, I think Hasbro wants to keep a distinction between character sheets and stat blocks, but again, we're in this new era, right? There's a main narrative, there's a meta narrative, and there's a signed narrative. And I think modern 5e dungeon masters are assigning the narrative that stat blocks are equal to a character sheet. If you have a stat block, you can run it. If whether you're a dungeon master or whether you're a player, and it totally makes sense because the stat blocks are completely configured and ready to run, right? And we've already been given these sidekicks. So running a character from a stat block is already established within the game. So it's kind of a big deal. So thank you. I kind of went on a bit of just explored some of the information about stat blocks here. What I really want to talk about is I want to talk about Holga Kilgore, and specifically what it says in her lore section about her relationship with Edgin, right? So let's talk about Holga Kilgore. So first of all, she is a member of the Uthgard Elk tribe, okay? But she was exiled from that tribe, okay? And so she is an exile from her tribe. So she grew up with them, she learned all her skills with them, and then she's exiled. We don't know why she's exiled, right? And it says in her lore section that when she was exiled, she had this period of being unmoored, right? And so she's no longer welcome with her people, right? And so she's coming out, she has a huge amount of vexation, she has a huge amount of frustration, right? Then she meets Edgin, right? Edgin, then she forms a very strong friendship with Edgin, okay? And this friendship becomes so strong that the canon section of the canon description, which includes the stat block, and this is something I think is really important, and this is a huge statement from Hasbro. They're like, Holga Kilgore is this lore what is Holga Kilgore, right? First of all, she's a character played. I think she's going to do an amazing job by Michelle Rodriguez in the film Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. But in actual Dungeons & Dragons, what is Holga Kilgore, right? She is a name, right? And every bit of this is massively important, right? Hasbro is saying, what is a fully functioning adventurer, right? You need a name, and a good name, right? Not Bob the Adventurer, right? A real name that's engaged with the actual setting, right? The lore. What is the background of this character, right? Where do they come from? Where are they going? What's important to them, right? The lore matters. The stat block, okay? And I don't like this part, but I'm learning and I'm willing to be open. A visual, right? There is a very detailed, very descriptive visual that is actually presented for Holga Kilgore. And Holga Kilgore, the fully functional adventurer, the fully functional hero, right? Dungeons & Dragons hero, Dungeons & Dragons adventurer, is a name, lore, stat block, visual, right? And that's incredible. That's exciting. That is really and it's them saying, we're solidifying this, and we're improving it, and we're making it very simple. What a fully functioning Dungeons & Dragons adventurer is, what a fully functioning hero is. Good. Every single hero is good in this. That's a statement saying, hey, no more of this sad sack neutral, and if you're running an evil game, you're really not running D&D. I think that's definitely between the lines, right? Because I think that it's still a commercial product and there are a lot of evil people in the world, right? So they're like, we don't really care if your dollars come from evil or good people. The green spends the same, right? I get that, right? Like, we live in a capitalist society, right? You don't want to, but I think they're saying between the lines, your adventurer, your hero should be good, right? But what really I thought was very touching, right? And it was really it's really special to me is it described that Holga Kilgore found her home with Edgin. Found a home. So here's this woman, she's exiled, right? She goes into a period of rage, and a period of recklessness, a period of being unmoored, right? And that's a powerful thing to think about, right? So you have this situation where this is being presented to us, and in this small adventuring team, which started with two people. So this adventure team started with two, just Edgin and Holga, right? And they built a home together, right? But get this, if you're an adventurer, if you're a regular muggle, right, your home is your family, and it is a location. And it is a stayed location. It is a locked location. It is a, it's a specific site, right? SITE, right? But if you're an adventurer, your home can be a person. And the reason why is your home is no longer locked to one location. You travel, right? You travel together. You risk your lives together, right? And the home at that person literally becomes, your home at that time becomes this other person, right? And so, and it also is like this, it's explanation that they're more than friends, right? That Edgin is her home. He grounds her. He is a central location where she lives, right? And that physical location is always different, but that emotional location is the same, right? They are together. They know they can trust each other with their lives, and they know that that they have more than a friendship. They have literally become a home to one another, right? And it makes it very clear. It literally uses these terms. It says that Holga has unwavering loyalty to Edgin. Unwavering loyalty, right? And that for her, the the group is a new family, and that she will protect that new family. And it is an incredible description of an adventure. It's this thing saying, it's an exploration of adventuring, right? And saying, one, there's going to be that many of the people who go adventuring, they go for reasons some of their reasons for being an adventurer may be loss. But once they begin adventuring and they disconnect their home from a physical location and make it an emotional location and literally a person, right? It changes the meaning of home and family for them, right? And here we see Holga Kilgore, and we see this beautiful depiction of a woman who has suffered great loss, but in that trial has found something meaningful and something purposeful, right? And I will tell you right now, one thing I cannot explain this, and I weep for the people who listened to D&D Beyond and deleted their account, right? Because right now, and believe for 1 minute that D&D Beyond was anything but the joyful future of Dungeons and Dragons, because anyone who walks into this film without having gone line by line and poring over this Dungeons and Dragons, D&D Beyond, Honor Among Thieves, Thieves Gallery, canon content, they're not going to get this movie. They're not going to receive this movie as powerfully or as well, right? I feel like my enjoyment of the movie is a flower that is growing in rich, dark soil, right? And that's what this D&D Beyond, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves, Thieves Gallery, canon content. This is unprecedented. This has never happened in the history of tabletop role-playing games. And I am so vexed with the incredibly selfish OSR, OGLers, and the orcs that cried D&D Beyond and made people turn away from this really special thing that would have really allowed them to enjoy the movie at an incredible point, right? I'm thinking a lot about right now about Michelle Rodriguez and what she's going to bring to this role, right? She is a female actress, and she has this unprecedented opportunity to bring American fantasy to Americans in a new way. And she's a person of color, and she is she's a strong female lead, right? And she may be the lead of this entire movie, right? And the OSR and the OGLers and the orcs and everybody's like, oh no, it wasn't no big deal in January 2020. 2023, they stole this opportunity from people, right? To come and enjoy this thing that has never happened before and may never happen again. And they stole this experience from them, right? And we are at a point where we are deciding, is D&D like Professor Dungeon Master just did a video saying you don't need an app, right? What if that app can create genuine joy and make something richer for you, right? And that was stolen from thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe low millions of people, right? What happened in 2023, in January of 2023 with the OGL crisis, it was not a victimless act. There are people who were done real harm, who had real trauma brought to them, right? And this is, when I was 7 years old, I remember it. I can see it now with my eyes, right? This was 44 years ago. I remember in Savannah, Georgia, going to see, I remember the yellow wallpaper and the maroon carpeting. And I remember watching Star Wars with my father and with my brother, and it changed my life. And how dare those OSR, OGLers, and orcs come along and point people away from this powerful new tool, right? Why did Hasbro pay $145 million for D&D Beyond? To make my life richer, to make your life richer, to help us to see female, people of color, strong female protagonists, and to shape that movie and make a super hyper rich experience that no other OSR or indie game has ever even attempted, right? And the OSR, the OGLers, and the orcs have stolen this precious experience from. The only question is how many people they stole it from. Was it tens of thousands? Was it hundreds of thousands? Was it low millions? And how many kids could have, young people could have had their lives transformed by being able to be connected to this new world, right? But because they wanted to protect their ability to copy, they shouted D&D be gone and pushed people away from this beautiful thing, this celebration of art, right? And it makes me sad. And I am so ready to see Holga Kilgore on the screen. And because I've pored over every word of the entry and looked at that photo again, that beautiful illustration, and the artist who brought Holga Kilgore to life, it's so powerful, it's so meaningful, right? And I thank God above I was born right now so I could experience every minute of Dungeons and Dragons initial 50-year run, right? And however many years, I was born in 1970 and D&D was born in 1974, and I thank God that I'm right here right now, and I did not for 1 second let them steal my joy and tell me that D&D is only for paper, right? And we're seeing D&D Beyond is this incredibly special thing, and engaging with us on an emotional level, right? It's an app, but it is engaging with us at an emotional level because that app has canon content, and it is bringing things that cannot be done on paper. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. I'm really eager to hear your humble opinion. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Please consider liking and subscribing. Have a wonderful millennium.